Hi, nice to see you again. Thank you for coming. Yeah, sure. Okay. Last time, yes, hello, Dr. Stein. Good Shabbos, good to see you. How are you doing? Good Shabbos.
Have we met?
What? Yes. Yes, it was a moving train and I was wearing a pink dress.
My memory's not so good.
I hope so. I don't know what this is.
Toby?
He
likes it very much.
I don't like it.
Very much. Yes.
Very much. No, it's not really. Now you talk about
Yes, thank you.
I won't get it till like this one.
Trying to get myself
Take
motivated.
with you because I'm gonna be worried about it going. Yeah.
Gucci, okay.
I don't, it's Gucci. I don't know if it's Gucci's
It's Rush.
Oh, can I call them there?
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
So I'll just ask, it's all right. I'm sure they're not anybody else station.
I'll find it. I'll look for that.
Okay.
Probably,
Yeah, sure they-
probably.
Yeah, they are. It's, he's Arabic.
Naturally, all are. All of them are. Or Indian, either one.
All right, good Shabbos, good Shabbos. Hello, hello.
Those are the Jew.
Hey, how are you? Okay, hello, Leland. Good Shabbos. Thank you so much.
Why don't you stand where I am?
Hi, hi.
No, you're starting to share.
Yes, I know. Did you?
So it's Lisa, like, just, that's even closer to what you're feeling people.
It's unbelievable. I mean, it's
It's color.
Yes.
we gotta get rid of these little.
She's not great.
Yeah, right, but what about the old place, you put them back in?
No, he's still
She's
there.
not here. She's not in New York, but she's not in the building.
Well, I didn't mean the building, I meant
Yeah,
Pompano.
she's home.
We're gonna push on after.
All right, Shabbat Shalom, good Shabbos. Thank you all for your kind sympathy. We want to offer condolences to Ms. Alice Braun-Presti on the loss of her husband, Yibodeh L'chaim, well, also to my wife Annbeth and her family, our family really. On the passing of her sister Janie, we were in New York. And the thing is this, they were very active in the shul. My sister Janie and my brother-in-law Alan. She was the education director, she did adult ed, she was completely self-educated. It was remarkable. Because like herself, the girl that I married was a nice girl from Brooklyn who happened to be Jewish, but didn't really have any formal education of sorts. But enough of that. What happened was every night, people from the shul, they have two rabbis, one coming, one going. Well, he's retiring for the second time. He's setting some kind of record. This is Rabbi Howard Nacht. He's 77 years old, which is really up there for a rabbi. I should stop humming. And they also have a cantor, Rika Timon, and it turns out that the senior rabbi and the cantor and I all attended the same rabbinical school, the Academy for Jewish Religion. But the point is that every night they came over, we had a minyan. The Reform have really a fascinating, I know about Mishkan Tefillah, which is their central prayer book, but they also have a little paperback model which goes to houses of mourning. And it was really very helpful. I don't know if we're ready to do that sort of thing, but just in terms of liturgy, just in terms of poetry and things to think about, it's really not a bad direction. But the thing is this, the food goes, and every night they had dinner. They had the Greek night, they had Italian night, they had, because you know, here's a Bubba Misa for you, a grandmother's tale. You're supposed to bring something sweet when you come to the house, but you're not allowed to take anything out.
Right.
Okay, let's collect Bubba Misas. Why are you not allowed to take anything out of a Shiva house? And I'm not saying that's law. I'm saying that's one of those things you hear from Aunt
We're
Sophie.
commanded to take care of the survivors.
Very good.
And provide for them.
Yes.
And when you give them, you don't take back.
Is that it? That is a
Well,
practical reason.
well,
Thank you,
well.
Morty. I was going to say it's a kinahara. You know, you bring in this really nice cake and you say, well, I want it for myself. It's a wonderful cake. Except the cheesecake, I understand, wasn't too good. And you're not supposed to take it out because once you bring it into the Shiva house, it's tainted. Isn't that sad? It's a kinahara. Because we Jews believe. I'm not going to say we Jews believe because that got me in trouble with the sixth grader once. Jewish tradition teaches that we don't officially have the devil, or we do have Satan. Satan is a prosecuting attorney in the heavenly court, and he gets all the best lines in the book of Job. But we don't have an independent spirit of evil operating independently of God, because God is the God of good. And this is the tough part. The good stuff, the bad stuff, all comes from God. Right. You can spend your whole lifetime asking the questions, but as Elie Wiesel tells us, it's easier to ask the questions than to find the answers. However, he does say as you get older, you can ask the same questions from a higher level of experience. So the point is that people were there, people came and went. Every night they had this minyan in the living room. The first night it was the senior rabbi. The second night I wasn't there, there was the junior rabbi. The third night it was a family friend. Where was the cantor? Never, oh, excuse me. But then what happens is the food gets put away or disposed of, the people go away, and it's just you.
Yeah.
That's the tough thing.
Yes.
And I haven't been able to say this to members of my family, because you can't rabbi for your own family. It just doesn't work. You can rabbi for other folks. But this wonderful line, Tom Stoppard, I've spoken about him before, Jewish fellow as a matter of fact, from Czechoslovakia, though not practicing. He wrote his first and most famous play is Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, which is retelling the Hamlet story from the point of view of two very minor characters. And he's written other stuff too, The Real Inspector Hound, travesties, very dry British sense of humor, but he does a lot of absurdity, because that is life. I'm not going to use that to explain my sister-in-law's passing at the age of 66, but... All right. In that first play, what happens is Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are on their way. Everybody's on their way. You ever notice that? We're always on our way. And their particular mission, of course, is to take Hamlet on a ship and assassinate him. Simple enough. After all, their boss, the king, who is Hamlet's uncle, who is married to Hamlet's mother, it's very complicated, has ordered them to do so. And they're walking down whatever country way, and they run into a troupe of strolling Elizabethan players. And I love these guys, because in Elizabethan times, when they did theater, they did theater. It wasn't any of this comedy of manners or intellectual. And they say to the chief player, they say, "Can you show us death?" And the chief player says, "Very easily." And he points and he gestures to the players and goes, "Show." And they do the whole gamut of Elizabethan manners of death. Garroting, hanging, sword fight, poison, the whole thing. And off to the side, Rosencrantz, or maybe it's Guildenstern, says, "That's not it. That's not death. Death is someone failing to show up. And they continue not to show up until their very absence is heavy with death." So Annabeth can't call her sister anymore. I mean, do we believe in an afterlife? Does Jewish tradition teach about an afterlife? Yes, we don't make this whole thing about it. A professor of mine in graduate school, Alan Mandelbaum, he translated all of Dante. I honestly can't get through it, but you see, the Catholics, if you want hell and heaven, my goodness, you can't lose with the Catholics. But we Jews are kind of vague. What is it? Is it Gan Eden? Is it the Garden of Eden? Is it Yeshiva Shel Mala, the heavenly academy, whereas on earth you studied with ordinary teachers of flesh and blood, even though some of them are very good. Up there you get to study with all the idis, Nachmanides, Maimonides, Gersonides. You can never have too many idis.
Shem and Aver.
Shem ve'Aver, yes, and Shem, the father of the Semites, and Aver, the father of the Hebrews, whom I have never met, but I'm sure they have a lot of stories to tell. But is this comforting? Because another important mitzvah is nichum avelim, comforting the bereft. And there's no way to do that right. I have had more stupid things said to me in my lifetime. People say the dumbest things with the best intentions. The best thing is just be there. Be there for the person. Because in the book of Job again, he lost everything. I'll give you the details some other time. And he sits in silence for 7 days and 7 nights. And then 3 of his friends show up and proceed to do exactly the wrong thing. They tell him why he had a loss, why he deserved a loss, why it had to happen. No. You sit. And when the bereft person is crying and their heart is broken and they say to you, why did this happen? You say, I don't know. Can I bring you a lasagna? Because somewhere along the line, the lasagna has become identified with Shabbat. Okay, any questions? Yes, Morty.
The biggest mitzvah you can, well, I've been always told, the greatest mitzvah you can do is to assist in the burial of the person who dies.
Right.
Now, you come to the house of mourning, that's a mitzvah in itself. Is that a different type of mitzvah?
No,
But
any-
you know, they can't ever repay you for doing
Well,
that.
you, as you yourself said, Morty, that it is the highest category of mitzvot because there's no way for the deceased person to reciprocate. Although over against that, and you can buy this or not as you wish, now that the grandma is up in heaven, we may assume, she tugs at God's sleeve because there's a grandson, you see, little Jack. And she tugs at God's sleeve and says, could you keep an eye on him? I always envision that when the baby, he's only 3 months now, but of course he's the most brilliant 3-month-old in the world, you must understand that. But when they start to cruise, when they start to crawl, and you know they can crawl a lot faster than you can walk, okay, because they're close to the ground, all right? When they start putting, they put one hand, you're sitting there in the living room, and one hand of the baby goes on the coffee table, then the other hand, and then the face appears, and the baby looks around and says, will you look at this? I'm the first human being in the history of the universe to do this. This is amazing. Now I can get into some serious trouble. But when you're always holding your hand, see, here's the baby's head, you hold the hand to protect the kepi, the head, because one day, God willing, the kepi will go to college. That's what the Melitz Yoshe does. That's what the intercessor does. That's what I'd like to think happens. Anyway. All right, any other comments? Otherwise,
Rabbi,
yes, Arthur.
as you know, my birthday, I'm much older than most of the people here.
Yes.
Going back about 75 years ago, when I entered a shiva house at a young age, and this was a very orthodox people, they only had pishka cups. There were no
What kind of
food.
cups? Pushkas?
Pishka,
Charity boxes.
yes.
Yes.
That was it.
See, I say pushka, you say pishka.
With
But
different
you're
words.
right.
I'm Harvard and
That's fine. You're a different part of Europe, by
Okay.
way of Middle Village.
And that's what we had, pishka cups. And there wasn't any food or anything to talk about.
Really? No, they didn't feed.
Well, I was much older than you, Rabbi, so you don't.
They didn't have food
Jews
yet?
always eat.
They didn't have food yet. Okay. Yes, I
I never heard of woman.
It's different. I'm sorry, Arthur, where did you grow up?
Middle Village.
Oh, here we go, yes. I assume that by now they have supermarkets. Yes, go ahead.
When my father passed away,
Yes.
my mother does not believe, in other words, people come to be with you, with the bereaved, people. But she didn't believe in having like big, a big party, like with food and all that stuff. She
Jewish?
did not believe in that.
What happened
She
when
said,
your
"You know?"
sister was laughing?
Yeah, and then I had somebody, my sister was sitting, we were all sitting shiva, and somebody spoke to my sister, and she laughed.
Yes, was your mother saying?
And my mother, after everybody was gone and so on, she says, "This is the galechta." In other words,
Right,
what
you
is
don't
this
laugh in the
laughter?
shiva house.
Your father just,
Yeah.
and my sister did not innocently,
Well, how dare you be happy? When my folks passed away, we were attended to by the Shiva police. This is an Orthodox building, mind you, in New York. And the Shiva police's job is to go around and visit the different houses of Shiva. They won't eat anything because obviously it's not kosher enough or kosher at all or whatever. But they look at you and they tell you you're doing it wrong. Okay? Because I got up, because I was raised not in a barn, and my mother said, "This is Mrs. Jochenfloster," and I said, "How do you do, Mrs. Jochenfloster?" She says, "You're not supposed to ask me how I am." I said, "Okay, then whatever."
Not supposed to stand up either.
Yeah. But the worst thing was when my mother passed away and Annbeth was left alone in the house, and she's the daughter-in-law. She's not a direct relative. She's not obligated to say Kaddish. And my brother-in-law and I went out to sell the silver for millions of dollars, which I've told you did not happen. And my sister had to go down to the housing office to do some business there. And the Shiva police show up, and it's just poor Annbeth. And they said, "Where are they?" And she said they had business to do. Because my sister was living in Florida, we were living in New Hampshire. They're not supposed to leave the house. We are so blessed with people who can tell us we're doing it wrong. Okay? My feeling is follow your heart.
Tradition.
Okay? All right, well, anyway, I will give you regards. Yes? Okay, I will give you regards to Annbeth, and I had a perfectly good conversation about Christmas, which I'll save for when we're closer to Christmas. Quick overview of the Parsha, the Torah portion. Here we go. At this point, all the boys are in trouble, and Joseph is in command. Joseph is the vice pharaoh, the grand vizier, the secretary of agriculture, the minister plenipotentiary, the grand poobah of Egypt, which in and of itself is an impossibility, because you're not going to hire some smarmy little Semite fellow to run your country, even if he's very good at interpreting dreams. But hey, take the story on its own basis. And Joseph is in love only with his own brother Benjamin, his full brother. The rest are just half brothers and and rascally fellows too. They sold him into slavery. And Joseph says, "I'm going to keep Benjamin with me." And of course the boys know this is going to kill their father, because in the absence of Joseph, Jacob has turned his affections on Benjamin. And Jacob is a case all by himself. I think an army of psychologists could have a good time with Jacob. So Judah approaches Joseph to beg for Benjamin. Now, why Judah? Hint, something to do in the future. Hint, somebody will spring from Judah. Starts with a D, got a V in the middle, ends with a D. Yes! David is from Judah. Unlike Saul, the first king, who's from Benjamin, which is a relatively weaker tribe. They were strong, but not like Judah. And that's why we're Jews and not Benjaminites. So Judah steps forward. Now, did this really happen? Again, you retroject it. You take Judah and you push him back in the story, and that gives him some oomph for the future. And Judah says, "I'll be a slave." And finally, Joseph can't take it anymore, which is certainly one of the more dramatic episodes in the Torah. He bursts into tears. He chases all the native Egyptians out of the room, and he speaks to his brothers in Hebrew. "I am Joseph. Is my father still alive?" That in and of itself is not correct. Of course he knows his father is alive. The question is, the whole time that Joseph was in Egypt, he couldn't send his father a postal card saying, "Hi, Pop, I'm really okay. I got a really good civil service job. Gotta watch my back." Because he's teasing, he's torturing his father too. So Joseph says, "It was God who sent me here," which is probably one of the earliest references to God being active in human affairs. God is not only the Borei Olam, the creator of the universe, he's also Hashgacha Pratit, he's divine providence. And his eye is on the sparrow, not a leaf falls from a tree, but he wills it. And I've got problems with that too, when you're talking about death. But let's get back to this. The brothers rush back to Canaan with the news. Jacob says, "My son Joseph is alive. I will see him before I die." This is a guy who's been killing himself off easily for 20 years. Do you know people like that? I'll see you before I die, or if I'm alive, we can have coffee, things like that. All right, they have 70 souls in all. Why 70? 7. There it is again.
7 days.
Sacred number, yes indeed. Can't lose with 7. 6 is not that great. 9 is the worst. Okay, because it's 1 shy of 10. You can go really to town with these, with the numerology. 22 years, and Jacob is very anxious about this because he, of course, is a shtickle prophet, and he can look into the future and see the slavery period. And God says to him, "Fear not to go down to Egypt. I will make of you a great nation. I will go down with you into Egypt. I will surely bring you up again." Notwithstanding that, Egyptian history has no mention whatsoever of a group of Semitic folk coming down to Egypt. I know they've got the Hyksos, but that was disproven. And what does he do? Joseph has no mercy whatsoever. The Egyptians come to him and he says, "Well, I'll sell you food." What happened to the Department of Agriculture? What happened to those really nifty cans of peanut butter we used to get during the Cold War? He doesn't have anything like that. They say, "We have no more money." He says, "I'll take your land." "We have no more land." "I'll take you as slaves." Talk about a reversal. And where do we live? The land of Goshen. Okay, there was a Jewish neighborhood. All right, you could tell when you went there. There were mezuzahs on the doors. No, I don't know what they had on the doors. But they certainly had doors because later on they have to do the thing for Passover. All right, questions? Otherwise, we'll segue. Yes, sir.
In Egyptian history, was there a Goshen where Jews lived?
No, there may have been a Goshen, which was Goshen, but again, the Egyptians were notoriously xenophobic. Okay? To be a stranger in the Egyptian language meant to be a barbarian. If you look at the hieroglyphics, you'll always see the pharaoh is gigantic. That shows he's important and strong. He's carrying his royal flail, he's carrying his weapons, and he's beating back a horde of nasty-looking little Semitic types. And you can tell they're Semites because they have black beards and black hair. And the Egyptians were clean-shaven. They shaved their heads as well. If you wanted to go to an Egyptian soiree, you would take a chunk of specially made wax. You can get it at Pier 1. And put it on top of your baldy head. And during the evening, the heat of your head would melt the wax. It would flow down the front of your face. And apparently Egyptians found this very fetching. Okay. Did I answer your question, Monica?
How'd they get the wax off their face?
I don't know how they got the wax. So I think that's why you paired off. You had to have somebody who looked at you and said, "Honey, I love you, you've got wax on your nose."
Because usually you have to heat the wax to melt it.
This was super duper Egyptian wax that was self-melting.
So,
Eventually what they did, Yvonne, was they bought those little battery-operated candles, and they used chewing gum to attach it to their hands, in case there was a blackout. Yes, of course they. All right. Well, thank you very much. All right, the cantor's been very patient, and I'm schwitzing. So, only in Florida do you use AC. All right, let's do the candle lighting. All please rise. Ladies, if you'll... No,
Thanks, honey.
okay, we're going to light the candles. Here we go. All right, Toby, would you like the candles?
Got this
Okay.
online.
All
I
right.
can't get any
Alicia,
voice.
would you,
I'm like,
Alicia, would you like the
is there a button or something to push?
I don't know.
No, make sure your sound is on your phone.
Pardon?
Make sure your sound is on your phone or your computer.
Computer.
Yeah, just make your sound is on.
I have my sound. Bluebird Live or something.
It's fine.
Yeah. And I checked all the connections.
Not such a hot doctor.
So I really don't know what the heck.
Restart your computer. Restart your computer.
Boot it, turn it off.
I can play with a full deck if you know what I mean, but
How much is the consultation?
that doesn't sound good.
Oh, yes. That's wonderful. That's a match.
That's what grandma.
Oh, I noticed nothing. That's wonderful. Okay, we wave our hands over the candles. We're bringing Shabbat. We cover our eyes and sing the blessing. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu, l'hadlik ner shel Shabbat. Amen. Asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu.
V'tzivanu, v'tzivanu, l'ad livnei. V'tzivanu, v'tzivanu, l'ad livnei. V'tzivanu, v'tzivanu, l'ad livnei. Shel Shabbat.
Yes, very forward. They're Chinese, you see.
That's why I said no.
Half Shabbos, only one candle.
Okay, folks, turn to each other and hug and kiss the Shabbos.
Pajamas, but I have a problem, so I really should
I'll come to the mountain.
Shabbat, Shabbat,
Thank you for coming.
This must be doing face recognition. This is,
Shabbat
you
shalom.
want to text to pepper.
Okay, no more friendly, no more.
I need to sneak across.
No more friends.
Fadine, shalom aleichem, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon, mimelech, malachei amlakim, kadosh baruch hu. V'achem b'shalom, malachei hashalom. Page 13. Page 14, you did Nefesh. Yedid Nefesh, Avarat Kaman, Meshochadak, Eretz Orak, Yarot Samadak, Yeroayan, Going directly to the Lachado D on page 21.
Okay, just to put a little bit of nice and happy music, we are going to learn a new Lechadodi. Yeah? It's very easy, it's not difficult. I want you just to learn the part of the Lechadodi. Yes, not the middle. You're gonna have time to learn the rest. Okay? So this goes this way. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. Yeah? לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. Now goes and finish down. Yes, נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. Okay, you got it. Okay? So let's start from the beginning. 1, 2, 3. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. שמור וזכור ודיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד. אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשם ולתפארת ולתהילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו וללכה, כי היא מקור הברכה. בראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה רק שבת תחילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
Please rise, face the doors off to the side. We're on page 22, the fourth stanza, greeting the Sabbath Queen.
בואי בשלום ותרד בלה, גם בשמחה ובסולה. תאכלוני עד סגולה, בואי כלה, בואי כלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת
nekabela. All right, please remain standing. We'll go directly to the Baruch Hu. This is in the usual place, page 28. I'm going to ask Dr. Cyril Stein and Toby to please open the ark.
You go to the left, I'll go to the right.
Yes, there you go. You left ark, Dr. Stein? Yes, that was very kind. No, we fold the thing over. Otherwise, we're Jews. We never do anything simple.
No,
Okay, then we
Put your
pull the
fingers
curtain.
in.
The pull is on the left.
you got it.
Baruchu et Adonai
And the curtain is closed, and you may be seated. The door stay open, yes. Thank you. Okay, usher, come on.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר בדברו מלא ברבים בחוכמה פותח שערים ובתבונה משנה עתים ומקלים את הזמנים ומסדר את הכוכבים במשמרותיהם ברקיע כרצונו בורא יום ולילה גולל אור מפני חושך וחושך מפני אור ומעביר יום ומביא לילה ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה אדוני צבאות שמו אל חי וקיים תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד ברוך אתה אדוני אמרי ורבי
And we have page 29. That's an English reading? An English reading. Okay, on the lower right of 29, your love has embraced us always. Let's read that together, please. Your love has embraced us always, in wilderness and promised land, in good times and in bad. Night and day your Torah sustains us, reviving the spirit, delighting the heart, informing the soul, opening the eyes, granting us a glimpse of eternity. Because of your love we shall embrace Torah night and day, in devotion and delight. Beloved are you, Adonai, whose Torah reflects your love.
כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו ובהם יומם בלילה 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 ועבדך אל תסיר ממנו לאור עולמי ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל.
Page 30 is the Shema. Cover the eyes just for the Shema, please. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kehod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. And the English paragraph together. You shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might. And these words which I command you this day, you shall take to heart. Teach them diligently to your children, and recite them at home and away, night and day. Bind them as a sign upon your hand, and as a reminder above your eyes. Inscribe them upon the doorposts of your homes and upon your gates. All right, reading silently the bottom paragraph on page 30. And continuing on to 31.
למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי ויתם קדושים לאלוהיכם, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
Right, the middle of 32, leading into the Michamocha.
ומלכותו ברצון קיבלו עליהם, משה ובני ישראל לכהנו שירה, בשמחה רבה, ואמרו כולם, מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נלך בקודש, נורא תגלות, או ספר. מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקיים לבני משה, צל ידעו ואמרו, מרגיף עלינו את יעקב, וגיאלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני, גל ישראל.
As is customary, the top left-hand paragraph on 33. We'll go around if there's anybody you know, Jewish, Gentile, anybody at all, relative, friend, in need of refuah shlema, in need of healing, please mention their name, and we'll wish them refuah shlema, and afterwards read this paragraph. All right. Dr. Lichtenstein? Okay, good. Yeah.
David Wasserman,
Refuah shlema,
Martin Baker,
refuah shlema,
and Joe Allen.
refuah shlema. What's the matter with Joe?
He had
Had
a
some surgery.
surgery on his shoulder.
Oh, right, okay. No, yes. Moving along. Yes.
Not Austin, Lauren Mallett.
Refuah shlema. Yes. Okay. All right.
Cindy Prestia.
Refuah shlema. Okay. Yes.
Arnold and Joe Kuznets,
Refuah shlema.
Arlene Carl.
Refuah shlema. Yes.
Maureen
please.
Price.
Refuah shlema.
Jean Tobin.
Refuah shlema.
Yeah,
Pearl Katz,
Refuah shlema.
those who died in Israel in terrorist attacks.
Oh, okay. All right. Yes.
James Basmajian,
Refuah shlema.
Inez Pasher.
Refuah shlema.
Thank you.
Okay. On page 33, the top left, let's read the English paragraph. Help us. Help us, Adonai, to lie down in peace, and awaken us again, our sovereign, to life. Spread over us your shelter of peace. Guide us with your good counsel. Save us because of your mercy. Shield us from enemies and pestilence, from starvation, sword, and sorrow. Remove the evil forces that surround us. Shelter us in the shadow of your wings, O God, who watches over us and delivers us, our gracious and merciful ruler. Guard our coming and our going. Grant us life and peace now and always. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Praise to you, Adonai, who spreads the shelter of peace over us, over all his people Israel, over Jerusalem and the entire world. Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, baruch atah Adonai, borei sukat shalom aleinu, v'al kol amo Yisroel, v'al Yerushalayim, v'al kol haolam kulo. Amen. 34.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורות דוד עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורות דוד עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, עוד אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני, עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת בי נפש, שבת בי נפש, שבת בי נפש, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
Please rise, half Kaddish, bottom of 34.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמר רבם לעלמא דיברה חילותי וימליך מלכותך וקיים יום יומכון וקיים כל בית ישראל בעגלה בעגלה ובשער קריב ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמה לקודשם ולהביא לכל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה תמיד לעלמם
The Amidah is 35b and concludes on page 38, after which you may be seated. Kaddish, which I believe is on 48. 48, full Kaddish.
הנה מתקדש שם רבן, מעלמא דברי קדושה מימליך מלכותו וחיי קורא מימי קורא וחיי דקור בית ישראל. מה רבי זמגני מאמרו, יגיש מהרה מבורך, יורם יורם יתברך וישתבח מתפאר מדרום מדרסה ויתהדר וידלי ודלל לשובי קודשה. Lena mi ricordo che cada vicina da due che da che madame mi aveva imbro il cavezzo le do volto de con Israel cada volta mi chiama imbro e reish la barra mi chiama che ma lei con Israel ve imbro o se shalom imbro ma o ya se shalom aleinu ve con Israel la cavia shvaitevel
All right, we have the Kiddush. The Kiddush Macharot will distribute the wine or juice.
Juice.
Same one we had last time. No, 2 for 1.
Juice.
So it's better than the last one.
Juice.
Last one looked like it.
Juice. Juice. You can't be serious. Do what you want.
You can switch it if you want. You can have both. Thank you. Such a lovely host.
No, actually, I'll be doing the same thing, but it'll be on MSC.
Page 49. Baruch Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri Amen. Baruch Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kideshanu b'mitzvotav, ורצה בנו, ושבת קודשו, ואהבה ורצון הנחילנו, זיכרון למעשה ראשית, יום ותפילה, במקראי קודש, זכר יציאת מצרים.
There he goes. There is Ramon.
Thank you.
Yes.
Doreen, want mine?
I'm making
No,
next.
you crazy?
And we want to thank the
That's
Rumacs for
disgusting.
distributing
Thank you
the
very much.
wine or juice or juice. Next is the Aleinu on page 51. And guess what? We're opening the ark.
I'm coming down.
Excuse me, you're all scared to open the ark. Would that be all right? Could you?
Why does someone tell
Yes.
forgot about it?
Yes, yes. Two. Yo, it's not yo. Yo is I.
Actually, after the
How do you say
You go right into computer then?
two? It is two. Okay. Isn't that
Windows
the familiar?
No, you go.
Usted. Usted.
What, this
I don't wanna do
story?
two.
This does?
I can't say two.
You go.
The ark is closed. Thank you very much. Rosh Hashanah. If you're not saying Mourner's Kaddish, you may be seated. Ms. Alice Braun Prestia on the loss of her husband, Hamakom Yinach Betosha Arav Zion Yerushalayim. May the Almighty comfort you with the rest of the mourners of Zion and Jerusalem. May you know no more sorrow. We'll say Amen.
Amen.
Yes, yes. Arnold, who were you saying Kaddish for?
My father.
Okay, let him rest in peace. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah. Amen. V'yalma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei. V'chayei chon v'mei v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael. Ba'galal v'zman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach li'olam u'nei mayar. Yitborach v'yishabach v'yitba'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. Yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shnei dekudisha b'richu li'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tush b'chata v'nechamata damiran v'yalma v'yimru amen Yehei shalama rabba ben shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yimru amen Oseh shalom b'mromav v'yaseh shalom Aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yal kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. All right, please be seated. Just a couple of announcements.
I can do that for you.
Oh, good. Why don't you do that? Okay. All right. Our dear friend, Mr. Stuart Pepper. No, that's the battery. Who's the heart and soul of the office.
No.
Yes, monarch of all he surveys.
You can sit down for a minute.
You tell him, Stuart.
I'm here all weekend. Shabbat Shalom. Everyone. Welcome to our Friday night service. I'm the stand-in board member for Rita Fleming Klein, and she's off enjoying her daughter and family this weekend, so Zeiggesund to her, that's great. Gives her a chance to have some fun with the family. I want to let you know about a couple of things coming up on the schedule as we come tomorrow morning is our more traditional Shabbat service, starting at 9:30 here in the temple. Couple of other things. We're doing a brunch to honor Annette Finger. Excuse me, I lost my way there. Annette Finger, who is going to speak to us about the hidden children, the Holocaust, and that will be taking place on the 13th of January at 10:30 in the morning. It's a nice brunch, and the cost is $18 per person. And please make your reservations through the temple office. There's something new that's you'll see on the schedule. We are sponsoring, along with 2 other synagogues in Broward County, a casino and antique car night, January the 26th. It's a nice big flyer in your bulletin. Any questions, let me know. It should be a lot of fun, and Temple Shalom is not a full sponsor, but we are a partial sponsor along with these other synagogues, and we're happy to see us all go. I'll be attending, hopefully, and as many of you as who can. That would be great. That would be great. Let's see. Just follow up your bulletins. The regular weekly things that we do every week. Laura Durant's aging gracefully, and Rita usually says you got to age she doesn't want to age like a klutz. Well, I am a klutz, so we age like klutzes, but that's okay. I love it. Laura's groups are remarkable. They really are a must attend. We've got Mahjong on Mondays at 12:30. Doreen and her crew come in here, and boy, there's one bam and 2 crack going on all afternoon. It's great fun to hear all the stuff going on in here. Now we've got the rabbi's adult Hebrew class on Wednesday, his current events discussion on Wednesday evening, and the list goes on. Cantor's classes every other Thursday on diving into the Siddur. After the minyan, yes. And tomorrow after services, are you doing a?
Yeah, I really want to do Rebbe Nachman of Bratslav. Now, over against that, our dear friend, Mr. Arthur Schwartz, has given me a couple of articles from the New York Jewish Week, and one of them asks the ethical question, do Jews turn the other cheek? So I thought we would touch upon that before there's a lot of diving here. Dive into Rebbe Nachman.
God, I forgot my water wings. Okay, and lastly, there will be in February 22nd, we're going to be doing a joint Shabbaton with Federation. More to follow on that. Should be a really lovely evening. So look forward to that. Mark that on your calendar. And just follow the. Thank you very much. You all have a good Shabbos, Shabbat Shalom, and we'll see you for Kiddush following.
Thank you, Stuart. That was very well done. Just one quick thing. It's there's always another tsaros to go around. We want to be praying for the health of Mr. Joel Schur. He's 97 years old. He's a Holocaust survivor, and quite honestly, I've been trying to get in touch with the family. I only have the one phone number, but they've been members forever. And Judy Schur, in case you come to the Wednesday Hebrew class, she loves that Wednesday Hebrew class. Okay? Thank you so much for your concern. Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah.
And I'll certainly convey your good wishes to Enbeth. On page 54, Cantor's going to sing us out with Yidon Olam.
Adon Olam, Asher Malach, B'terem Kol Yetzir Nira, Le'nasa V'Chetzoko, V'Zayim לא יקרא, ואחרי ככלות הכל, ואלוהים לא נורא, והוא היה, והוא הווה, והוא יהיה בתפארה. Okay, this is especially for you to do the time that you were listening the how do you call the music? The doobie-doo.
That's Frank Sinatra.
Doobie-doo. I don't know. Doobie-doo. Yeah, you can do the doobie-doo. Okay? ואחד ואין שני שירו להגבירה ולראשית ולספרית ולא העוז והמזרח והוא אלי וחייבלי וחוצבלי ואין צרה והוא ניסי ובנפשי ונקוצי ויום מקרא ויעדו וחינוכי ואישה ואירה ואינוכי ואירתי אלו מלא ולוירה יאללה יאללה
Ladies and gentlemen, I give you our cantor. He's a wonderful man and he has a lot of syllables. Please rise for the closing benediction.
יברכך אדוני וישמרך.
The Lord bless you and keep you.
יאיר אדוני פניו אליך ויחונך.
Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious unto you.
יישא אדוני פניו אליך וישם לך שלום.
And the Lord turn his face unto you and grant you peace. We'll say Amen.
Amen.
שבת שלום.